Hey everybody, Dan here with Pain Free You. Today I wanted to talk about this question that I think a lot of people in the mind body space who are dealing with chronic symptoms or ailments, they ask themselves, how the heck did I get here? So that's the topic for today. How did I get here? So, get to that in a minute. Blue sky, sunny out, love it. I'm sitting in the shade, but it's awesome out. Beautiful. I'm going to shoot a couple videos and go out and grab some dinner. So, you hear the birds? Love it. Somebody in the group coaching mentioned that if you go sit outside and you hear birds, it's a message of safety. You know why? Because let's say there's a storm coming in and the birds are a little bit scared. What do? They get quiet. So if the birds are making a lot of noise, things are good. Things are safe. So step outside. Listen for the birds. The birds know it's safe, and you can lean on that a little bit. So that's just an interesting thing that came up in the group coaching. So, how did I get here? So, Sarno said it was all repressed emotions. You know, I believe that's true for many. I believe that the brain can absolutely perceive emotions as dangerous. But let's go farther back. Let's look back. Many people, I've been anxious all my life. You know, many people have had traumatic or less than ideal childhoods, and we learn to become hypervigilant, always on the lookout for danger, which, in my view, is one of the key indicators for anxiety, and having anxiety growing up, and then as an adult and an older adult, and, you know, the brain learns to always look out for danger. That's its job. The brain's job is survival, safety, keeping us alive, keeping us okay, right? So how did we get here? Well, I think many of us learned to be a little more hypervigilant, and as a result, the brain can sense danger more easily. But I think it's cumulative as well. You know, I did a video a while back about how full is your stress bucket. And, you know, the concept is as we accumulate all of these emotions, sometimes repressed emotions, these experiences and traumas and overwhelming life situations and life stressors, and they kind of pile up in the bucket. At a certain point in time, this hypervigilant brain, looking out for danger, plus all of these accumulated stressors, events, traumas, if you will, negative emotions, repressed emotions, they kind of overflow the bucket, and we can start to get symptoms. So it's not your fault. Let's be extremely clear. If you are judging yourself that this is my fault because I'm too anxious, nope. Your brain's been doing its job wonderfully, keeping you safe. And that hypervigilance is a survival strategy. It's a good thing. That's why humans have been around so long. Because hypervigilance, we learned we got to keep our eye out for that saber-toothed tiger or whatever. Love that. So how did we get here? Our life experience brought us here. And sometimes life chaos happens and the bucket overflows a little bit. And we kind of hit our limit, and we get symptoms. And then if you read the book, I walk through, you know, an average journey into symptoms and chronic pain or chronic ailments. And oftentimes the symptoms happen, and then we start to get scared, and we see doctors, and then they either diagnose us or tell us that we're perfectly fine. And then there's this whole, you know, chain of events that happens after that. We become more and more scared that we're actually sick, or we're broken, or this is wrong with me, or that's wrong with me, or they can't find anything. The doctor must be missing something. So we go back, we do more research, we get some more testing, we start feeling more and more broken. And before you know it, the failed process of figuring out what's causing your symptoms or pains causes more fear, more vigilance, more hyper focus. And so that's kind of how we got here. The cool part is there's an answer as to what's going on. There's an answer and a solution as to how to turn it back and reverse it. So there is a solution to this mind-body concept. It starts with understanding what is going on. I call it perceived danger pain. Sarno called it TMS, tension myositis syndrome. Later, the mind-body syndrome. Some of the other doctors call it neuroplastic pain. Doesn't matter what you call it. Basically, the brain is creating symptoms based on the perception of danger. And so, when you understand that the brain's creating the symptoms, we can determine based on certain characteristics of symptom behavior if that's true or not for you, right? So learn what causes symptoms, then learn and do the assessment to figure out if that's what's going on in your world. And if it is, wonderful. That's a home run. It's the best news ever because that means it's reversible by teaching the brain something new. And I do believe that chronic symptoms, chronic pain, the brain's working perfectly. It's just operating on misinformation, and that misinformation creates fear. The misinformation that I'm broken, I've got this body problem, I've got this body ailment, this sickness, this disease, this illness. And all that misinformation does is create fear. And I just did the video the other day about how doubt will delay recovery. And so this clarity is really important. Now, some folks out there, they don't have clarity. But what I'm going to suggest to those folks is begin anyway. Begin anyway, because there's absolutely no downside to teaching the brain to regulate the nervous system, to trust that we can do better, if not completely recover. So if you're missing that clarity and you don't know how to find it, decide to move forward anyway. If there's no medical options for you, decide to move forward anyway. But for the vast majority of us, you can do the assessment and it'll say, yes, this is a mind-body issue. And so don't reject that, because rejecting that, what you're doing is deciding to stay in doubt and fear. And I'm not saying you're doing it on purpose. I'm not saying it's your fault, but that's the net effect. If you reject the mind-body reason for symptoms, the brain-created symptoms, that will delay your recovery. And you don't want to do that, right? So some people are just stuck on the fence. I don't know, I think it is TMS. I think it's perceived danger pain or symptoms. But what if they're wrong? What if it is, and your doubt delays recovery and keeps you in the symptoms? What if you could get better if you just made the decision to accept the assessments and the evidence that you do have? And for the folks who are struggling to come to the conclusion it's a mind-body process, even in true, legitimate medical situations, the brain, the perception of danger is involved. Somebody asked me through a comment, what if you have a combination of both real physical and a mind-body TMS thing? Do the work anyway. You may be very surprised that this considered real thing that you can see on an MRI wasn't causing the pain after all. And if you convey safety at a high level to the brain, sometimes these quote-unquote real things go away anyway. So do the work. Dig in. Commit to it. At minimum, you're going to suffer less mentally and emotionally because you're not focused on the symptoms. You're not suffering in them all day. You're not talking about them all day. You're learning to re-engage in life and do more things, even if you have symptoms. And life gets better just by a mindset shift. But if you get the mindset shift and you stick with that, you very well may find yourself having symptoms shift as well. So, how did you get here? Life. Life happened. And some of us had better lives than others, but if you're watching this video, you probably have some type of chronic ailments, symptoms. And the great news is there's a solution, there's a cure. I've got going on 115 success story interviews, So go check them out. PainFreeYouSuccess.com. The book reviews for my latest book, or my first book and latest, Pain Free You, Teach Your Brain to End Your Pain. Go look at it on Amazon. Over 200 reviews, still averaging 5 stars. Many of those book reviews read like success stories. You want proof this stuff works? It's out there. I've got the success stories. I've got the great book reviews. Follow along in the comments on Facebook or YouTube, and you will see so many people commenting how this work is helping them. I just saw one today, just 20 minutes ago, where somebody says, yep, pain-free after 7 months. Okay, love it. So there's consistent evidence coming to me in messages, emails, comments, success stories, book reviews. This stuff works, folks. Don't doubt. Don't hesitate. Commit. Jump in. Believe enough to begin. And what you may find is that initially you're going to feel better mentally and emotionally, and eventually the symptoms will follow. So go for it. Love you, folks. And as always, we'll see you tomorrow. Take care.